Welcome back, everyone. In this video, we're going to take a very deep dive into tokenization and the pre-processing needed for the distilled BERT and, same for BERT-based model, but in the title here you see distilled BERT, but this same process happens for the BERT-based model, okay? So we're going to have this input sentence, I love dogs, okay? So over here, we first tokenize it, which means we spread it up into these separate tokens. And remember, this is done by the fixed size vocabulary that the BERT and distilled BERT model has. Okay, so they have been trained on English text and they're able to basically tokenize these. So split them up into tokens. Then so over here we have I love dogs and then the period. So we have the tokens. Then we add the special tokens, CLS, I love dogs, period, and then the separator token. Now, what's happening over here? Well, we have the CLS token, which stands for classification, and it is added at the beginning of every input sequence, and it's used as a summary representation of the entire sequence. During training, the output vector corresponding to the CLS token is typically used for classification tasks. Now, what does this mean in terms that we would understand it? Well, it means that when we input this CLS token, it basically marks the beginning of an input. And the model is going to know that, okay, I got some things like this CLS token. I'm going to know that I will have to do something with this sequence. So I better be prepared to understand what's coming next. Okay, so that's the main reason of the CLS token. It's an indicator so that the model is going to know that the text following it is going to be something it has to focus on and do some work on it like classification or some other things. Then we have the sep token, which stands for separator, and it is used to separate different sentences or segments within the input sentence. So that's pretty straightforward, okay? Then we convert them, so we convert these to token IDs. So CLS is 101, I is 1045, love is 2293, dogs is 3899, the period is 1012, and the sep token is 102. Okay, and so we just converted these tokens along with the special tokens to token IDs. So these are the token IDs. Okay, and now if we come back to our picture, it's same thing with these. These are token IDs. Okay, so like token IDs or token indexes. And let's continue with padding. Now, a model needs to have a fixed input length, right? And the reason for that is because we want to make sure that the model is able to generalize. And in order for the model to generalize, it needs to have the same kind of input for every sentence or every word, which means we can't have longer words or shorter words. We have to have a fixed size words, okay, or fixed size inputs. And over here, I set the padding to be equal to 20, which is the max length. And our example only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tokens. So the remaining 14 are padded with zeros, okay? And this is very common in machine learning. This is also done with, in computer vision when you have padding. So this is just done so that every input, whether it's a short sentence like I love dogs or a longer sentence, would have a fixed size. And there are other techniques. If it's a longer sentence or paragraphs, then 20 is not going to be enough. So over here for our input, I set it to have a max length of 20 tokens, which is like probably one sentence. So then our model is we're going to set it up in a way when we do the example with the code to basically truncate it, which means that if it sees anything longer than 20, it's going to cut it off at the 20th token. Over here, this step just ensures that all the inputs have the same length, so the model is not going to be confused during training. Now, we come to attention masks. So attention masks, they indicate which tokens should be attended to. 1 for actual tokens and 0 for padding. Now, as you can see, this one belongs to this 101. This one belongs to the 1045. So this is binary. As you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ones, and the remaining 14 are zeros. And that's because the remaining 14 is just padding. So we don't need to worry about that at all. Okay, so that's why we have it over here, as the remaining are zeros. Now, what is the last one, the sixth one? These are token type IDs. And token type IDs distinguish between two sentences. So sentence 1, for example, is labeled with zeros, sentence 2 is labeled with ones, and so on. But right now we are using one sentence at a time, so token type IDs are pretty much not needed, because as you can see, we have just an input, I love dogs. And that just means that, you know, the entire thing belongs to the first sentence. And the way you should understand it is the first 6 tokens, so, you know, we have this 6. Over here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This belongs, it knows that this belongs to, you know, the first sentence. And if we had an other sentence, then these would be part of that other sentence, for example, and they would be 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. But if that's not super clear for you, you don't have to worry about that, because I brought another example where we have multiple sentences, and you'll see the difference in the token type IDs. But basically, all the token type IDs do is just distinguish between, you know, the multiple sentences that we have as inputs. Okay, so let's switch to this very same looking image. And over here, as you can see, I have input sentences of I love dogs, and actually, sorry, this should be a period over here, not a comma. So I love dogs, period, and dogs are great. So this is supposed to be a period, not a comma, but you'll understand it. So these are two separate inputs. So now over here, we do the same thing. We do the tokenization, I love dogs, period, and then dogs are great. So over here, the model just, you know, chopped this up into the tokens, and then it added the special tokens. Here we have the CLS token, and over here we have a separator token, and that separator token is after the period, as you can see. So I love dogs, period, separator token. So the model knows, okay, a new sentence is coming, dogs are great, and then at the end we have the separator token again. Then we just take all these tokens and we convert it to token IDs, and then we do the padding. And since this is a longer sentence, only the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, only the last 9 values had to be padded with zeros, okay? Because it's a longer input, so we have more words. So only when, you know, we had the max padding set to 20, and that means, you know, only the last few actually have the zeros, which are the padding. Now we create the attention masks, and remember, attention masks, they indicate which token should be attended to. 1 for actual tokens and 0 for padding. So over here, since this is a longer sentence, it knows that up until this point, this 102, which is this last separator token, it needs to attend to, and that belongs to this one over here, this one, okay? And it's gonna know that up until this point, these are actual inputs and not just padding, and after that, we have padding. And now, this is where we have the differences in the token type IDs. Over here, we have the first sentence, and it's, you know, here's the CLS, I love dogs, period, and then the separator token. Then dogs are great, period, separator token. So over here, you see that this is belonging to the first sentence because these are all zeros. Now this belongs to the second sentence because, you know, they all have the ones indicating, and the rest zeros. This is actually kind of confusing, but it's made this way for efficiency. So this doesn't mean, I was actually kind of confused when I first looked at the BERT paper. This doesn't mean that these last few zeros belong to the first sentence. It just means that the rest are padded, and the rest we don't have to worry about, okay? So I know this is confusing, or it might be, but you know, now that I tell you guys and girls, you should understand that these first zeros belong to the first sentence, these ones belong to the second sentence, and everything else after that that is not used is a zero, and the zero just denotes that it's padded because the model already knows that, you know, we already had the first sentence with zeros, and then the second sentence with 1, and everything else that's not used is padded. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And this course is not about coding, but in the next video, I want to show you guys and girls how we can use, actual code that would take this input sentence, like I love dogs and dogs are great, and create everything that we need. And when we train a BERT and a distilled BERT model, we are going to be focusing on, we need the attention masks, we need the token IDs, and we need so we need the token type IDs. So we need this part, this last part. We need the attention mask, which is part 5. And we also need part 3, which are the actual, token to IDs. Now that doesn't mean, like why did we do step 4? Because we're only going to be using step 3, 5, and 6 when we actually train a model. But the thing is, you couldn't have step 5 and step 6 without step 4, because first you have to define padding and then you can go on to 5 and 6. So when you're training a model, you're going to be using step 3, which are the token IDs, step 5, which is the attention masks, and step 6, which are the token type IDs. So I'll see you in the next video where I'm going to demonstrate how you can do this in Google Colab.